I'm a little bit late to the trend, but it's finally time to check out one of the hottest YouTube games of 2 months ago. In a game about digging a hole, we are walking down the street when we see a mysterious figure pull up out of a truck and put a big poster up on the wall for a house going for only $10,000 with a guaranteed gold treasure buried underneath. And who can resist such a tempting offer? Seeing such a great opportunity in front of us, we go ahead and buy the house and show up with our trusty Super Mega Digger 3000 Ultimate 2.0 that has just a little bit of small text saying that it will explode if the battery gets down to empty. But, we're pretty responsible, that's probably not gonna happen. But, now that we own the house, we really don't need to contact the city or the water company, gas company, anything like that. We can just go ahead and start digging right in the backyard. I've got to say, these HD Minecraft texture packs have gotten really good in the last couple years. And just like in Minecraft, as we start digging down through the dirt, we start to find other materials like stone and coal. Once we've collected some of those ores and filled up our currently very small inventory space, we can return to the garage and sell those ores to make a couple of quick bucks. Then those bucks can be used on refilling our battery so it doesn't explode, and also buying permanent upgrades to all of our different equipment that will be very helpful. Speaking of refilling the battery on our shovel, once we start to use it and it gets pretty low, we'll get messages that our battery is low and critical. I decided to test the bounds of what would happen if the battery actually hit 0, thinking maybe we could get some good blast mining or something in, but the explosion seems a little bit more localized than that. It just takes us out and we drop all of our ores as a result. So looks like we're gonna have to do things the lame way. We go ahead, return to the shed, fill up our battery, and return to the ground, but we do start collecting some nicer and more expensive ores, namely coal and iron, pretty close to the surface. Now that we're able to harvest some of the ores that make us the real big bucks, and by that I mean slightly more money, we can actually save up enough to grab our first shovel upgrade. It's definitely an improvement over the first one that we were using, but it's not that noticeable really. There are also a couple other upgrade paths we can go down. Increasing our inventory size is a big one to stop us needing to come back up out of the ground so often. Increasing our battery life so that we don't have to come back up out of the ground so often. And a super important fourth one that I was definitely underrating at the start, the jetpack, which allows us to fly up out of the hole much quicker at the cost of a little bit of our battery life. The other important thing about upgrading your inventory in this game is that if you have a full inventory and break ores, they don't just drop on the ground, they actually get destroyed permanently, so we gotta keep an eye on that. So we slowly continue making our way down deeper into the earth when suddenly we see the words "object detected" pop up on our screen, and we see a weird little tracking device that we don't quite understand yet. But this is going to be super useful for getting us some quick bonus items while we're digging down. So the key with this tracker is to find the place where you're getting the strongest signal for the object you're trying to detect, and then dig through the wall to find a cool item like these $22 extra here. And those $22 really come in handy as we can officially grab our next shovel upgrade, which finally changes the appearance of our tool and definitely makes it quite a bit better and faster. Starting out, it really seemed like the game wanted me to dig kind of straight down on that X that was on the ground initially, but I wasn't fully confident in the jetpack yet, so I decided to do more of a staircase pattern down in a little bit of a spiral. That means that it got dark pretty quick down here, and we needed to start putting up some lights. Our digging down does eventually lead us to hitting a cave, which is super useful because there are a lot more visible ores all over the place, leading to easy collection. But as you can see here, it does get quite a bit darker, so we're going to need to bring some more of those lights down here. Downside is they do cost money though, so This cave also leads us to another one of these mystery object detectors popping up on the screen, but I definitely didn't realize what this was yet. The intention of this item is to point us towards some more chests that have a lot more helpful items, but I actually kind of thought it was just suggesting to us which direction we were pointing since we were so deep underground. Oh, what a fool I was a couple of hours ago. We continue running back up to the garage with our little pockets full of ores, and eventually we manage to do another shovel upgrade that gets us to the drill. And the drill is by far the biggest quality of life upgrade there is in this game. Instead of needing to click individually for every single mining that you want to do, you can now hold down the button and get a lot more done. The drill is such a big improvement, it starts giving me dark thoughts like, what if we just went ahead and mined out everything in the area? I'm not going to, that would be crazy, but you know, it gets me thinking that. While I'm walking around clicking on random walls to mine out, I notice a little bit of wood sticking out in a corner that doesn't seem to match everything else around it, so I decide to investigate a little bit and find an arrow pointing inside of a tunnel. I got a little bit worried here. I know that this is a fairly short game and we were looking for something buried under the house, and I get even more worried when I see it's a little chest type thing, but it turns out that this is actually the thing that object detector was pointing us to. It's just some bonus items and not the end of the game quite yet. We're done stalling out now, so it's time to begin actually making some more progress downward. We very quickly hit another cave, and we also get into finding gold regularly spawning as well. This is a pretty big upgrade, as gold is a much higher per unit price that you get when you sell it. And this new gold collection we found is super useful. We can go ahead and turn that in and get the absolute maximum power drill that we immediately test out and see that this thing absolutely rips. And now that we have so much money kicking around and we have so many upgrades purchased, I decided it was a little bit silly to continue on with these full spiral staircase that we were working with, so now we're utilizing our jetpack to its full capabilities to take us straight up much quicker. Digging straight down did begin to present a little bit of a problem though, as I began hitting these magma type rocks that seemed impenetrable with our drill, even at its absolute strongest. Luckily for me though, around the time that I began hitting this magma rock, I found another one of those underground chests that led me to a little bit of dynamite. Now dynamite is a fair bit more expensive, it's $100 per stick, so I hadn't really messed with it up to this point, but I thought there has to be a reason that dynamite is actually in this game, and maybe we can use it to blow up some of these rocks that have been blocking our progress, and it turns out that is exactly right, if you can figure out where to aim it. Now that we know the main way to get through those big rocks, we can begin to venture even deeper down, and we hit another giant cave. This one is even bigger and actually contains platinum as well. Platinum is another pretty big step up from gold, but we're kind of approaching the end of needing upgrades honestly, so it's not a super big deal. And it's relatively close to another ore that's even better, so that of course being diamond, the rarest and most expensive ore in the game that will help us finish out all of our remaining upgrades once we get this first batch up to the surface. Now that we have so much spare money available, I decided to go a little bit crazy with dynamite and blow a big hole in the bottom of the earth, which leads us to some pretty creepy looking tunnels that we begin to creep down until we come face to face with a giant and pretty terrifying mole that is stalking around these caves. So we decide to make a quick maneuver around it and creep into a nearby tunnel. Avoiding one mole though is really not that much of a problem, so instead we walk down a tunnel and encounter two more moles. I honestly thought that I was pretty smart for buying all of this dynamite prior to this. I thought we would need to fight them, but it turns out the solution is just to run away. It seems like we've maybe finally managed to get away from the moles that were chasing us as we arrive at the big chest at the end of the game we were promised. As we walk towards it, we earn our first achievement treasure for finding the treasure, but when we open up the chest, we see that it is actually empty. And to make matters worse, when we turn around, we find that those three moles have been stalking us all this time. We then see a cutscene very similar to the beginning of the game, where a mysterious van pulls up, a figure steps outside, and puts up another poster for a house that looks quite similar to the one that we were just exploring. But in a little bit of a twist, we see that the van pulls away, and a quick zoom down into the license plate shows a little mole logo at the bottom. Seems like this is some sort of secret society that is trying to feed all of these underground mole people. We also learn after completing the game that we now have access to unlocking other achievements, so we can go ahead and get started with that in a new game. It seems like some of our progress from our original game actually carries forward though. As soon as we load into this new game, we earn the achievement Stonemason for collecting 100 stones, and Moneymaker for earning over $20,000. There is a little bit of a downside to this new game mode though. We have to start all the way from the beginning, without all of our cool item and tool upgrades, and with our hole no longer dug. So I guess it's back to the grind. The new game mode does give us a little bit of a benefit though. Now in our upgrade garage, we can actually see a list of our remaining achievements and our progress towards completing them, which is pretty useful for our purposes at the very least. It is pretty useful for allowing us to see our progress in achievements like I Am Shovel for shoveling a total of 4,000 times, which we hit pretty quickly into the second playthrough. New Game Plus also adds in a new type of ore that isn't super useful as far as getting money or resources or anything like that, but the rainbow ore definitely looks very distinct and is pretty easy to pick out when you see it in a cave. I was a little bit worried that it was going to be super rare, but we actually managed to collect all 5 of them that we need for the achievement rainbow relatively quickly. And while we're just grabbing achievements here, I decided to go ahead and grab the achievement Wasted for wasting a total of 50 ores. Basically, we fill our inventory up with the basic rocks and use our super upgraded drill to destroy a bunch more ores very quickly. After that, I spent a fair amount of time chiseling down our tunnel to get all the way down to the bottom of the world. We've got the super upgraded drill at this point, obviously, so it's no big deal, but you might be wondering why I decided to put in this extra time. Well, that's because our next achievement is called Long Fall for having a fall of at least 4 seconds without tapping our jetpack at all, which basically requires us to drop from the very top of the world down to the very bottom. It kills us, but that's alright. After Longfall, I decided to turn my attention to something that I completely missed in the base game. We covered using the object detector to track down some of the cool suitcases full of money, but something that I missed out on was the other object type you could find, the keys. Now there are 2 of these keys hidden throughout the level that you basically find just by digging around randomly in the soil, which is pretty quick with our drill. Once we have both of the missing keys in our pocket, we can go ahead and return to the garage once again and use them on this mysterious locked trunk that I kind of forgot about. We earn the achievement Old Crate, and we also get a Dynamite Radius upgrade, as well as an item that teleports us back to the surface. With our Dynamite Radius upgraded, I decided we're pretty much done with this save. We may as well finish out the BOOM achievement for throwing a total of 100 dynamite. That leaves us with just 1 achievement remaining, and I've gotta say, it's definitely the most daunting of the bunch. The achievement The Fastest requires us to beat the game in under 30 minutes. Now, my first attempt, playing the game at a pretty slow pace, was about 105 minutes, so we need to do a fair bit of cutting down. So it's time for us to load into another brand new game and attempt to get down to the very bottom of the world in 30 minutes or less, or the pizza's free. Honestly, it doesn't seem that bad. I've fully embraced buying the jetpack earlier and taking to digging a straight vertical tunnel to get us down quicker rather than the spiral that I was doing before, which is definitely much slower. For my first attempt at the speedrun, I think I'm actually doing pretty well. We managed to make it down to the bottom layer where we're running through the tunnels very quickly, but unfortunately we got a pretty bad mole spawn. He charges immediately at me and kills me, something that I actually didn't really know could happen because it didn't happen the first time around. I unfortunately let the mole kill me 2 more times after that. I was just being way too impatient. After that, I finally got the memo down and decided to wait a little bit longer when I got down into the tunnel. I managed to make it all the way down to the treasure chest, but as soon as I open it, the achievement doesn't pop, and I've got a pretty bad feeling. I returned to the garage in the post-game and learned that I actually just beat the game in 36 minutes. Just shy, and if I wouldn't have died, it would have been fine. So at that point, I took a little break and did a little bit of research on the speedrunning tech in this game to try to speed things up even further and make our run maybe a little bit cleaner. And it actually turns out this is pretty crazy, but those speedrunners actually do know what they're talking about, as we get a little bit lucky with hitting caves when we need to, but overall we definitely improve our speed quite a bit, and we are on a great pace as we get down into the tunnels. And we've learned from our mistakes. I play a little bit slower this time, and we managed to make it through the most difficult RNG dependent section. But I did actually manage to get even a little bit more nervous as I clicked on the chest once again, and our fastest achievement once again didn't pop. But when we reload into the world this time, we actually do manage to unlock the achievement the fastest, and we see that our drill has turned golden. And on our achievement board, we see that our time is at 22 minutes. Which, by the way, would put me around 58th place on speedrun.com. Not that that means anything, because we're really just here for the achievements, and now we've done everything in a game about digging a hole. But how did we do? I managed to complete a game about digging a hole in 5.1 hours. Pretty quick, and honestly, with the multiple speedrun achievement takes that it took me, not too terrible, I would say. Overall, I would say this game was pretty fun. I see why it was popular on YouTube for a little bit a couple months ago, but you're definitely getting what you pay for with this one. I would say it is about 5 hours of entertainment, and I don't know how much more I could have gotten out of it. I was a little bit concerned about the speedrun achievement, but actually that was pretty fun, and it's definitely achievable if you do a little bit of research beforehand and you get a little bit lucky. I saw a review on Steam when I was checking this game out that said it really felt like this game was kind of building itself up like a Subnautica, but then it just kind of ended. And I have never played Subnautica, but I think the idea is pretty good. It really does feel like this game could be doing a lot more, you know, maybe once you get to the bottom and you uncover the secret of the moles in this mole society, you can build up to something else, you move to a new area, something like that. I definitely think there's a lot more here that the creators could work with, but you know, for what it is, a short little game, $5, not too bad. I had a good time with it. And as always, please feel free to let me know what you thought about this game down in the comments below, or if you have anything else you want to say, or any game suggestions that you want to leave, please feel free to leave those as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. See ya!